What this is a Society for Creative Anachronism, or SCA for short. It's a group that started back in 38 years ago in Berkeley. It's just a fun medieval group that got together and did some sword play with bamboo swords, basically, and it's developed into a full group that does the best part of the Middle Ages. So basically we've done away with executions and the plague and such like that, and now we're going for the best part of it, which is moneyers' guilds and brewers and seamstresses and armor makers. And when we get a chance to walk down Merchant Row over to our left here in a few minutes, you'll get to see a lot of the merchants and their crafts that they do. Behind us and around us is all the camps setting up. They go from the brand new beginners that have dome tents and just some throw stuff to people that have period pavilions, such as the one behind us right now.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask you, how's the hierarchy system set up here? Like, how do people know how to dress, or how do they know how to set up? Or?
Well, the hierarchy is actually done in a tournament, and this convention is actually a war. And the final one we usually do is feast. Feast are during the wintertime. We all gather at places and bring good food and have a great time, telling stories, doing song. When we get our hierarchy, that's done in a tournament, and they actually have what's called heavies. Those are the ones that fight in full armor with swords and shields, pole arms, and hand-to-hand. And whoever is the winner actually is the one that becomes the next prince or princess, because females fight and so do heavies, and you have to have one of the opposite sex that is favoring you in the fight. So if we were together and you were the fighter and you became the one that won that day, you'd become the lead princess and I would be the prince alongside of you, but most of the decisions would be made by you because you're the one that won it in combat. That's already been decided, and this is a war. Our lines don't go with nations or states, but basically for this separation, the California-Oregon border is sort of the division between the West Kingdom to the south here and the Antioch Kingdom to the north. And there's a great gathering. A lot of our royalty has gone off to Lachlan, which is Australia area, because that principality has become so strong that it's becoming a kingdom. And so they're doing that. So we have mostly for the West Kingdom princesses and princesses and the fighters, and Antioch has come down with a mighty army led by a king. And upon the battlefield tomorrow mostly will be decided who is really ruling the area. Tomorrow about 10 o'clock the actual battles will start, and we'll have, like I said, the heavies. We'll also have lights, which are archers, javelineers, and ballistas. And we have a past king, which would be a duke now, who's running it, and he runs one battle after another, and we're going to run 24 different battles tomorrow.
My.
A lot of fighting with not a whole lot of blood.
Well, how do you mock battle or whatever? How does that work?
The fighting's done on your honor system, and it's a very chivalrous, that's part of the group. But if you were to take a hit to the arm, you could no longer use that arm anymore.
Okay.
Take a hit to the leg, you either have to hop around on one leg or go down to your knees and fight. And it's just done on the honor system that they hit you hard enough to be felt through the armor, that if it was a real sword it would have cut you, and that it was hit with the proper part of the sword. You'll see people that for some reason the side of the sword hits, and they'll actually talk to each other. That side, it was the broadside, don't take the hit, and the fight goes on. And you'll have two sides that charge each other, just like you've seen in Braveheart. They'll come charging at each other, and they'll duke it out, and eventually there'll just be a few standing from one side. And then everyone will pick things up, check their weapons for safety, make sure that nothing's broke, come loose, make sure they're okay, go back at it again, or maybe take on some water and go back at it again. Besides those going on, over in the merchant area, though, we do have rapier fighters, which are similar to the musketeers, and they'll be dueling it out, also gaining points for West Orant here. We even have Caid, which is Southern California, going into Arizona and New Mexico. Their royalty will be here along with some rapier fighters. Over towards the west of us, we have equestrians that will be participating tomorrow. They'll be jousting the ring, which is using lances to go through little rings as they ride by, and the rings eventually get smaller and smaller. And also Saracen heads, which they ride by, and they're alternating heads on posts, sometimes pumpkins, sometimes basketballs, but something to represent that you're riding through infantry, and you try to knock them off. And they do it at whatever speed they're qualified at, which is a walk, which is a beginner, a trot, or a lope, and that's what they authorize in is the speed they have to do the event in, which does make it tough. And let's see if we have archery going on, tournament archery up on the hillside. And once again, all the merchants over there with a lot of wares to sell.
Do you have any problems in this? Like, do the horses ever have, because you do use real horses.
We do use real horses, and our armor is real. We do have injuries at times. People get heat exhaustion if they're not paying attention. We have water bearers and chirurgeons, which are medical people, whether they're EMT or first aid, that try to help and such. Rarely we have to bring in an ambulance, but that's basic our only problems. Like any civilization, you do get a few people that get out of hand once in a great while, but usually our own people say, hey, quiet down, and they do. That's part of the group.
What kind of people usually participate in this kind of a...
It's an interesting group. You go from politicians and government workers, whether it's police officers, firemen, ambulance, attorneys and city people, managers and such, down to people that work at water bottling plants, rest homes, nurses. You have the full range and gamut, and they all camp side by side.
You mentioned earlier that when after the battle is over and everything, you do come back here and you're all friends.
That's correct. What happens is we go out in battle, we have a great time. A lot of us know each other by name, depending on how long you've been in and who you know and such. We come back, our camps, they've tried to set up in different principalities. We have the Sinagua Principality, which is the area here stretching down towards Sacramento. The Mistis here, which is over towards the coast. Back behind us is the Antioch Kingdom. Over to our right is the Summits, which is one of the principalities up at Medford, Klamath Falls area. They all come together, they're all intermixed. We go out, we choose our two sides from where we come, we fight, we come back, we're all intermixed, and tonight we're all friends, we have a great time. There'll be bardic circles where they're singing songs, telling stories. There's drums, which you may have heard earlier on one of the tapes as we're going along, where they're going to be doing dancing around the fire. You have the two different basic types, for lack of a better term, which is belly dancing, but there's actually two different types. One actually exposes the belly, and the other is full dress. It's two different groups that have come together. There's actually the two. There's the I Dream of Jeannie, and there's the full clothed one. And they aren't necessarily all your hourglass girls out there dancing. They're people that enjoy it and enjoy recreating that around the campfire, and it's actually very beautiful to watch. You'll have a lot of meetings because this is a group that's actually worldwide. We spread clear over into England, up into Canada, all across the United States. I'm not positive, but at one time there was even a couple battleships that had shires, which are clubs, that would be fighting out like on the aircraft carrier deck. They'd be out there practicing in their off time. So it is a very wide group, and they have all the different interests. In the gazebo here at Greenhorn Park, we're going to have a Money Ears Guild where they're actually stamping coins. Some of them are used as tokens of trade during the event, and then afterwards you can cash them back in their dollar value apiece.
I see. About your outfit that you're wearing, how did you get where you are, and
It takes a while. At this time I'm holding a position called Seneschal, which is like a president of a club.
Okay.
And the local club here, which is called the Shire of Crystal Mist, has an exchequer, which is a treasurer, and then we have an arts and science officer, which you saw earlier. He was playing the harp and such in the area. Those are our three main people, and then we have a whole bunch of others that meet and have different interests. The coat of arms is something you pick on your own, and it has to have two differences from any known real coat of arms, because we're recreating it. We can't actually duplicate it. My own coat of arms from Scotland, I can't wear. I would have to make at least two modifications. I actually chose, for mine, I do a Scottish impression or a Scottish heritage. My fighting armor is all leather scaled and very much like Braveheart, if you've watched it, Mel Gibson, that time period. This here happens to be the Scottish flag, which is a blue flag with a white X. And then the red unicorn comes from my childhood of Prince Valiant in the comic papers. He happened to use a red stallion, but that's how I chose it. And then for the fourth, it just happens to be red, white, and blue, which is just a little side note that was nothing.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well.
But everyone picks them. Bard Francis, who happens to be a member of the group, happens to play the different instruments, and he has picked their type of guitar with a round head, and he has made them to make them into a cross. So the string end of it, where you'd actually play the notes, is the far end. And then the throats of each of them come together to make a cross. Different people pick different things that interest them, and then they get them approved for the society, and it's actually on the computer, and you can check them up and see what they are. My wife's currently getting one that has a rose on it with a purple rose
so
that she wants.
Just pick her own.
She picks it, and then she gets it approved. She has to describe it. You can pick your name, such as my regular name is Byron Duncan. My SCA name happens to be Byron of Edgewood Castle, and I've done enough in the group, the society, that I was recognized and awarded the first level of award, which is called an Award of Arms, and now I have a title of Lord. And that is unrelated to have to fight for it. That's just from services.
That's just elected or you serve.
That's services that have been witnessed and watched and enough that they felt that, hey, this person's beneficial. We want to keep him around.
Right. I was going to ask you how long you've actually been in this.
I've been in the group for almost 10 years. I've fluctuated in and out in how much I've participated. I've been a vice president of a local group. I've helped put on this actual event 6 years ago at the same park. It was a little bit smaller. This one's almost twice as big. Plus we have the horses and we have the rapiers this time. So just in participation, we've doubled the areas that we're participating in too.
Okay. Around here, you said this was also international. Are there people here from all over, or is this just
Without going around and asking, we wouldn't know. But I do know that we've had people come from the Middle West. We've had people down in what we know as Arizona, which is the Aden Belt area. And we've had people come down from Washington. And I think I saw a Canada-plated car. So we have quite a pull just to this area here for this event. Plus a lot of locals just from Sacramento, Portland, our normal area that we think of.
Right.
Greetings, I'm Francis Mangels, and here in the group I'm known as Bard Francis of Saxony. I'm an Arts and Sciences officer, and Principality I'll shortly be doing my second term as the Bard of Sinagua. And my specialty is Viking personas, and this particular item right here is the grand prize for the World Viking Championships. This was done in what we call the SCA year 27, which was about 10 or 11 years ago. This is year 38. And this is the grand prize for the World Viking Championships. The sword is made by a member of the SCA, Steel Wolf Armory, and he did it with real authentic inlaid silver and copper. In those days, copper was a very expensive item. And then I did the scabbard, and these are from various rune stones in Scandinavia, various pendants and items of jewelry from real Viking culture.
What exactly was the Viking award? What was it for?
Oh, well, it is Ithrotia, which is engraved on the hilt here, means contest of skills, and it's like a Olympic octathlon, such as decorated useful object. That's this cruth behind me, and there was brewing mead, throwing spears, shooting archery, poetry, playing nine man's Morris. Can't remember all of them, but it was quite a contest. It boiled down to a neck and neck fight between me and a fellow from Ottawa, Ottawa, Canada. And of course, there was one more, wrestling. I lost wrestling. I was fighting this great, big, huge gorilla named Grendel. We pick our own names, you know. His name was Grendel, and he looked at, just picked me up by my feet and held me like that. And I said, "Put me down, you big bully." You know, James Bond tattoo thing. He said, "Sure, Francis," and set me down, and I lost, you know. But I did get a couple of points for playing with that big gorilla, so actually it put me just over the top, and I just edged by the fellow from Canada.
Right.
It was a wonderful contest. They're still doing it, World Viking Championships up in what we call the Kingdom of Ontario in Oregon.
Right. And
Wonderful.
that's the group that you're going to be fighting tomorrow then, the West Kingdom, which is Northern California, against Oregon Kingdom, Antier.
Yes, the West Kingdom is basically Northern California, and Antier is Oregon, Washington, and Canada. And of course we have allies coming in from all over, like Arizona, the Midwest, Southern California, and these are all various other kingdoms. At present, I believe there are 12 kingdoms internationally throughout the known world, and 13 now, thank you, Debbie. 13 of us here now, and we're having just a wonderful time together out here in Greenhorn Park.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. And I was going to say, how did you get started in all this?
Well, I was going to a fair once, and then all of a sudden there were these guys here fighting with swords and armor, and I said, wow, that's really neat. Looks like ancient history. And I said, why do ye varlets contest so upon the field? You know, leftovers from Shakespearean acting. And they said, oh, you speak our language. And it went from there, and it's been 20 wonderful years with this organization doing arts and sciences. I'm not a great fighter, but I do a lot of arts and science stuff.
Speaking of arts and sciences, and I'm assuming you've got great musical ability. We've got some harps, and what did you say that was?
Oh, this item right behind me, this is a kruth. This is an extinct instrument. It's essentially a Viking harp. Now, the Vikings also invented this harp, the triangular harp. As far as we know, we think the Vikings invented this one, but this one's the precursor. This is the ancient form.
Right.
And this was one of the decorated useful object contests in the Viking Olympics, what we call the Eagles tournament. And it's, we're not sure how they tuned them because the thing went extinct before music began to be written down. But we do have some leftover tunes, and of course we have the Beowulf saga. You know, Old Saxon, and I do speak and write Old Saxon poetry as well.
Oh, well will you share some of your ability on this for us?
No, sure. A little piece from Beowulf, maybe?
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay, this is the creation hymn from Beowulf. And you can almost hear the Old English on that. Seda sete Cutha. Said he who was Cuth, knowledgeable. Quoth he quoted, Thetsi elmithia, that the Almighty, ye earth and worked, that the earth he worked, he created.
Oh.
So you can hear modern English rolling through in the old Saxon English. And this is English language as it would have been spoken about 800 AD.
Right.
And then there's this one that we think the Vikings made this from the old L-shaped harps of Mesopotamia. And we think the harp showed up probably around 900 to 1000 AD, right about the turn of the millennia. We think the triangular shaped harp showed up. And the Saxons basically brought it to Europe and to the Celts. They brought it to the Celts about 800 to 900 to 1000 AD. They brought it to Ireland, and the Scots and the Irish really thought this was a marvelous instrument that the Vikings brought to them. But you look for the oldest music on the harp, and it is Saxon. The Saxon stuff starts off about 5th century. I know a number of 5th to 10th century songs and tunes. And the Celtic stuff actually doesn't start off till about 1750 or thereabouts. So the Saxons very, very much predate the Celts by a very long ways. And we in the Medieval Society for Creative Anachronism are trying to recreate, refine, redo these marvelous arts and sciences of these ancient peoples of Europe.
Right. Well, it looks beautiful.
Something from the 8th century.
Thank you very much. That was great.
This is not a complete set of armor, but these are the rudiments of basic SCA light infantry armor. We actually shoot bows and arrows at each other. And we have our typical bow is a very light 25 to 30 pounder. You know, usually something like this is very nice. This is a solid glass bow, about 28 pounds, an excellent war bow. If it was any higher, we would hurt each other, but you only want to, as we say, you only want to kill your friends. You don't want to hurt them.
Right.
That's a joke, because our arrows, this is a typical war arrow, has a great big head on it, so it doesn't go in between the
Right.
bars on a faceplate of a standard heavy infantry helm, and it's lined with fiberglass so that it doesn't break and get splinters on it. So we have these very strict standards for safety in our various arrows and our weapons. Here's another. This one's a little shorter. This is for crossbow, and these crossbows, these are gauged out so that they also only shoot with about 30 pounds of thrust, very similar to a very light bow. It looks pretty fearsome, but this is actually a very light gauge crossbow, and it's made like this because they weren't shaped like this back then, but this is so this gives more hand protection.
Oh, I see.
And this big broad stock right here again is so that if I fall or something, it's not going to break.
Right.
So we have all kinds of very strict standards for fighting so that nobody gets hurt. And it's very unusual that we do have any accidents. For the body, we have this front and back plates. This is light gauge, 22 gauge steel, just painted white. It reflects the sun. It gets hot.
Right.
And here is a typical battle helmet for an archer. It's like a beekeeper's helm. A lot of people
Right.
think, beekeeper, oh yes. And what this is an old steel civil defense helmet with some perforated screen right there. And this cape-like thing underneath it is so that when an arrow hits it, it'll slow down and get hung up in the fabric. You know, when the arrow comes in, it hits the fabric and pushes it.
Right.
And with only less than 30-pound bows, that's actually enough to stop it. So nobody gets hurt. And it's very important that nobody gets hurt. And of course, underneath everything is this padded jacket. It's got a Velcro seal on it there. It's like a very heavy mattress pad. And it's made in my colors, which are green and white. I also have gold in it, but I didn't want to go for the expense of making it tri-colored. So this heavy padded jacket, again, nobody gets hurt. It maybe on a close shot. Yeah, see how nice that is?
Yeah. Yeah,
And-
it's just like a quilt material.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's a very heavy quilt. Now, it's pretty hot out there, so the major thing that we worry about in our fights is water. We even have a special class of people that go out and give water to everybody, because with this kind of, you know, like wearing a coat on a hot day,
Right.
you dehydrate fairly fast, so we make sure that everybody drinks a lot of water out there. And it's not unusual for a fighter to go through a gallon a day of water. But that's, if we ever have any problems in the SCA, it's never getting hit or hurt in the fighting itself. Almost always, it's somebody forgot to drink their water.
Right.
And so there's Gatorade and special drinks like that. And we even have people going around saying, you, with the red face, you need a drink of water.
Water.
And we make them stop and get a drink of water.
We see people that are dressed, you know, in different ways. You know, we have people with some with jeans on or whatever. What is the authenticity in this place?
Well, we have varying degrees of authenticity. Like for contests and for formal affairs, authenticity is very important. And you have people who are absolutely authentic, who will sew entire dresses by hand with a single needle.
and they will even weave their own wool. They will weave their own cards for belts. They will applique everything. They will make sure that it is a fabric that they had in those days, and they will do all kinds of research to make it absolutely authentic, right down to the gnat's eyebrow. And they would look at me and say, "Oh, Francis, get rid of those glasses, for heaven's sakes, they are not period." Actually, they did have glasses back then, but they were just very, very late. But anything that existed prior to the year 1600 is fair game. Generally, for most SCA, while we do have our people that are absolutely nuts about it, it's, does it look reasonable? Is it a reasonable attempt? You know, how decent do you look? In fact, I think Byron once said, well, if you're running around in a baseball cap and a t-shirt, you're naked. Authenticity is what you want to make of it, and you accept those who can't do it, and you wow those who can. And yourself, my lady, if I dare say, you look marvelous. This would be probably, I'd put it at about 14th century, maybe up to the 16th. English, French, certainly Northern Europe. Lovely indeed.
Thank you very much. And as we can see, you guys are doing a great job on your authenticity here.
Yeah, I just really like the song from Beowulf, so I'll do that again.
Oh, that's an old one.
About the year 800.
First literature pieces.
And the translation of that would be, Seda Satakutha, said he who was Kuth, wise, said that the Almighty, said that the Almighty, Ye Arthren workte, that the earth he worked, he created it. He is set to see a wraithing. He set with a great shout of hooray. The sun and moon, the sun and moon, as lit to lit, as the light to light, we the land buandum, we the land bounded ones. Life each ye shop, life he created as a poet. Limum on leafum, the limb and the leaf, terra the quitchawerfath, those that moved about on the land. It's basically the Genesis story, Genesis 1 through 8, and it's there in about line 760 or 860 in Beowulf, and it's one of my favorite pieces.
my name, my SCA name is Anna of Avon, and I actually drove up from LA to be here this weekend. So it's a fairly exciting time for us. A lot of new people, a lot of new activities. It's always, a great scene to meet new people up here. Among the many things that we get to do, in addition to meeting all sorts of new people, because you have to when you're camping in close quarters with them, but there's going to be a lot of really cool fighting this weekend. So not just the heavy weapons where the guys put on full armor, but also rapier fighting. Both men and women alike. We do rapier fighting from around the 1600s. So this is what we know as a rapier. Okay, mine is 36 inches long, and we buy these from different companies around the country who are familiar with SCA requirements. And we fight in 1500s to 1600s rapier style. So you're basically collegiate stance, except for one big difference is that you get to use your offhand. This is no longer one of those, haha, I'll just fight you with my sword. It's a, hey, this is a weapon too, come at me, I can block you. So we do use other weapons. So this is a scabbard or a baton. So for batting away other people's swords when they come at you, so you can bat and kill. Obviously, when you're doing something like this, the name of the game is not actually to hurt the person. So you take all the necessary safety precautions, including rubber blunts taped on with a brightly colored piece of electrical tape, so that if you're missing the electrical tape, chances are something's wrong with your blade. Other forms of protection include your traditional collegiate fencing mask made out of wire mesh, a coif, which is a hood that you put on and it covers the back of your head, a heavy fencing jacket, also traditionally a collegiate garb for protection, and we also wear what's known as a gorget for some of the heavier weapons, which this one is. It's called a schlager, which means a gorget is a piece of metal or heavy leather that goes around your neck and protects your throat, your collarbone, and your top 3 vertebrae in the back. So if anybody hits you, we're nice and safe. So, all told, it's a lot of fun. So one of the great things about the SCA is that, first of all, they include everybody. It's a really exciting thing. And second of all, this is one of the organizations that you can play with as much as you want or as little as you want. Nobody will ever condemn you for not coming to things, and they're always thrilled to death to see you. So for me, I try to go to one event a weekend or one every couple of weeks. I'm a graduate student. So clearly that has to take first priority. If you make one event a month or one every 2 months, people are still thrilled to see you. We have fighting practices for the different weapons forms, so heavy weapons, rapier fighting, and also shinai, which is an Eastern weapon form with bamboo rods. And we have those practices where I live all over the LA region, on different days of the week, different weapons form. So there's always one that you can jump into in any night if you're willing to drive to get there. And sometimes you're just so desperate, you're like, oh, I need to beat on something today. So I've actually been involved in the SCA since last November. So not all that long, a little over 6 months. And in that time, it has just been my pleasure to interact with this just absolutely tremendous group of people. And so, you ask, what do you expect to get out of it? And one of the things that I love about the SCA is it's giving me an opportunity to do so many things that I was never able to do before. So if I look at the past month, I have ridden a horse with a lance in hand, sticking it through rings and hitting quintains. And so if you've seen the movie A Knight's Tale, where he goes riding up to big shield thing and he whacks it with the lance and he tries not to get hit in the head with a sandbag, that's a quintain. So I've been on a horse. I have shot a bow and arrow last weekend at our Queen's Archery Tournament down in Caid. I am up here ready to fight rapier. So, these are things I never thought I'd get a chance to do, but I'm having an absolutely wonderful time doing them. And on top of that, I've learned how to sew. So this is my first ever shirt that I've made, which is very exciting for me. It's long enough to be a dress, but you got to start somewhere. And I play as often as I can, and I just want to be able to try as many new things as I can, and to learn something about history, of which I knew very little when I joined the organization, and to just meet and interact with a phenomenal group of people.
I'm not.
Well, I was saying about the harp. So the Egyptians had this quarter circle moon harp. Then the Mesopotamians that immediately followed them, and also at the same time had the angle harp with the strings going between the angles. And then you know, Bjorn and Olstad, they went over there and they saw, wow, that's a really neat instrument. Let's take it back to Scandinavia with us. And of course, on the sea voyage, the harp collapsed because of the wetness. He said, well, let's stick something in there like that. So they stuck in this 4-pillar on the harp right here. And of course, that enabled, they discovered you can tighten the strings up really hard with this pillar in here. And that was the invention of the triangular harp. About, we figure about 800 or 900 or so. Because by about 900 and 1000, the Vikings had sailed all the way from Scandinavia up the Danube and popped out at the Black Sea and met their other friends that had come around through Spain and past Rome and up to the Black Sea from the other direction. And they got these runes from the Vikings carved in a lion's butt on the Byzantium emperor's palace. So pretty cool. The Vikings were all over. Here's the oldest harp piece I know. It's from the 5th century. And that's the original 5th century part. But when you're in the SCA, it's called creative anachronism, so you start getting creative with it. Probably originally it sounded more like originally it probably sounded more chanty, more Gregorian.
We are the village of Bjorgvin that we are setting up here, which is a reenactment of an ancient Norse village around the area of 840 AD to about the 10th century, which later became Bergen, which was the capital city eventually. We have a smattering of different types of tents around here, mostly long tents, which are Norse construction, and this is a geteld, which is another style of Norse A-frame. They were easily transportable, they were part of the Viking longships, and could be set up rather quickly, and they did that for raiding purposes and trading purposes. These large booths here are actually where we keep, or we get the word booth from. It's an adaptation, which means it's not exactly what you would find in a burial site or a grave dig or anything like that. But in Burka, there is plenty of evidence still of the wooden houses that they built in about the 10th century. The booth would normally be constructed of stonework, where the wood is on either side would be stonework piled up around the outside, and then large posts or beams would be set up on the inside of the stonework, and the tent would be set down on top of it. And the tent would be made of plankings from the ships and part of the sail canvas and things like this. And then they would thatch from the tent out to the edge of it, and they would stay in those for years sometimes when they're out campaigning or traveling to new lands. We have a mixture of Irish personas and Irish nationalities in here. This is a very, very old style. Well, you can't really see it from here. Very early Irish style tent, but mostly it's all Norse.
What time period did you say this was from?
About 840 AD to 10th century, somewhere in there.
And I was going to ask you, how long does it take you to set this up?
Well, that varies from tent to tent. Some tents can go up within 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. These booths, this is about the third time, maybe fourth time we've set it up, and with 4 people we can have it up in about 15 minutes. So it doesn't take too long, but they are a little bit of a challenge to transport. You do have to be kind of prepared for that with trailers and such. But this is a rendition. It's not an actual exact replica of an Old Norse helmet, but it follows a Norse style. You wouldn't see this grill work here on any dig or in any archaeological find. That's something we do for our own protection when we're doing our mock battles. But you would see the nasal piece and the cheek plates, and it's all 12 gauge steel, so it's fairly heavy. It weighs about 15 pounds without the chainmail, and we can put we usually hang chainmail off of this. Hangs down around the neck. That'll add another 10 pounds or so. And horsehair tails were generally signs of rank or prowess, or just to denote who your people are on the field a lot of the times. Then we have an example of some chainmail armor, if you want to. Cynric wants to bring it over. This is all handmade, and it's all made from wire. We weave it together. We roll the rings, and then we cut the rings, and then we bend and shape the rings and put them together. And this might be kind of fun, but I'll hold this if you want to hold that for a second.
Oh my, it really is heavy. I don't think I could do this all day for sure.
Yeah, it gets a little heavy, but we wear a belt and then we drape it over the top, and that takes most of the weight off the shoulders. But the people who wore this were pretty brawny people. This is, Cynric, how much do you think this would weigh? 40 pounds? 30, 40 pounds? And this is without sleeves. In a lot of depictions that you'd see on like the Bayeux Tapestry and a lot of other things, you would see sleeves and it's all the way down to the ankles and sometimes pants out of it. Like that. That would have sleeves. And this is a very special style. This would have been very expensive back there. It's called riveted chainmail. Each ring is taken by hand and pounded down flat on one end, and then a rivet would be placed through it, and then a special tool would be used to peen that rivet, and that would be done for each individual ring for the thousands of rings that goes into these. And historically, there would be entire villages working under a master craftsman that's all they would do all day, 7 days a week. Yeah. And then this helmet.
This is a variation on a 9th century Vendel, and it would have had the nasal, and this is made out of 12 gauge stainless. And then this denotes the chainmail. It would have been just the conical top, and the chainmail would have hung from the rivets all the way around, just drooping just enough for the eyes, and it probably would have been connected to the nasal. Mm-hmm. So, and once again, the horsetail denotes rank, or just a lot easier to see your people on the field.
Yep.
So.
All right.
My name is Lady Catherine DeVere, and I am the West Kingdom chatelaine, which is basically the meet and greet person who introduces newcomers and talks about the SCA.
Well, I was going to ask you, what are these devices, I guess they're called? Mm-hmm. Can you explain a little bit about them? And
these are basically, in the Middle Ages, people really couldn't read. Only the upper class could read. So what they did was they used pictures to say where an office was or who lived at a certain place. This particular one is the badge of office for the Kingdom Chatelaine for the West Kingdom. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they've told you yet or not, but that is from the Oregon border south into Fresno, California, all of Nevada, and all of Alaska. We recently had Australia, but actually tomorrow our king is over crowning the first king of Australia, which is called Lakak. So that's kind of interesting. But this is one of the badges. Whenever I hang this up on my tent, anybody who knows this badge, who's been in the SCA a while, knows that this is the place to bring newcomers, to get information about what the SCA is all about, get help, get their clothes, somebody to talk to them. Additionally, we have personal devices, and these, for instance, are mine. They can be quite different. This one is registered to me. Nobody in the SCA can have one exactly like it. Matter of fact, there has to be 2 differences. And this one is my husband's. And what you would do is you would have something like this, and this basically was your address. This hung outside of your home or your tent or on your castle wall. You see them a lot hanging from castle walls. And this meant that this person lives here. A lot of times you'll see them where they look like somebody else's device, but they're broken up into like 4 pieces, and they'll be alternating, whatever. Sometimes in medieval ages, when you had the children would take part of their parents' device and their own device and make one together. So there's a lot of different ways of doing them. We have a college of heralds that actually registers each of these devices for everybody that is in the SCA that chooses to register theirs, as well as our names.
Right.
So you can't have 2 people with the same name or the same device. This is another device, just like the Kingdom Chatelaine one that I showed you. This is actually for an office of the constabulary, which is the police. We have our own police department. We have our own mayor's office, which is the seneschalate. We have chatelaines, people like myself. We have chirurgeons, who are the medics. They have their own device as well. This particular one is for the constables, and it tells people when I walk around and try to reinforce the rules, be it our fire rules or our parking rules or our basic general camping rules, that they have to listen to me. That's basically it.
This is my badge.
And this lets them know this is my badge, basically. We are not police, but in the SCA, we are the people that go around and remind the populace of all the rules, and actually we will coordinate when we have to with the local authorities, because we don't allow any violation of regular law, modern law, or SCA law, which actually ours are more stringent than the ones in the modern world.
First part of making a nail.
Got a specific reason.
Pinning it down. Nice lady, want to do some video? Yeah. If I do this really well, I have it done already, but not quite that good. Back up again.
Is it you're checking there?
Checking the size of the shank, the actual nail part. Now that the shank is done right, I'm not going to form the head. And that's what this thing is. It's a heading tool. It's used to make the head of the nail. So what I'm going to do is get it hot here, and I'll notch just above the thick part of the bar, just above where I thinned it out. I'll notch it, break it off into here, and then I'll form the head of the nail on into that.
What type of gas do you use to?
This is a propane forge. Now, back in period, they would have used charcoal mainly, and later period they would use coal. But they started figured out they burned down all the forest to make the charcoal. And they said, no, don't burn down anything else. We need the wood to make ships out of. Now we take it off in this thicker area here. Almost all the way through. Like this. There we go.
had the heads were offset to the side, and you'll have a lot. This is sort of a generic one. There's specific shapes for doing shingles, for doing flooring, for doing cabinet work, and some of them actually go out and they go wider, and so you end up you punch them through something, and then you bend them over and make them stick because you drill a hole for them, because otherwise you'd split the wood when it went through.
They actually smell good.
Come on.
The hanger.
Yeah, because got the stick or the rod there, and two.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Alright, put the ink pickle. Anna, take the pick.
To maintain your balance and not step off the board. If you step off the board or lose the rope, you lose. So it's actually a balance and equipment game.
It's tug of war on board.
Ready, set, go.
Yeah, this is a little too close. I'm grabbing his hand.
Go.
What are we supposed to do? The end of it?
Can I walk by?
Sure. I go next fight.
Yeah, we realized that when it was up, we're like, oh,
Ready?
practice box.
Set. Go. Oh. Ready? Set. Go. Ready? Set. Go.
You go, off backwards.
Okay.
Chuck a plate.
Gosh, I haven't done this in barefoot.
Yes.
Now relax. Good morning. Good morning. How you doing, Trevor? Be bad.
Ready? Set. Go.
The next event, Gunther has to do it.
Yeah, you won.
Good morning. Good morning.
Woohoo!
He's my knight, so you know. This is another one of my training lessons here.
Get set. Go.
Okay. I need a weight tie onto this. Oh, nice.
You notice one of the things he's doing, he's getting really the rope really low. Balance. You taught me well.
On your mark. Get set. Go.
Cree and Simon, arm into this field.
Round the second.
Cree, Simon. My lords and ladies, in this the second round of fighting upon this field, we have Cree facing Simone. Yay! My lord, my lady, salute the representative throne-like thing, if there is such a thing for saluting.
The Princess of Sinagua?
The Princess of Sinagua.
The Queen of Tahiti?
And the Queen of Tahiti. I actually know the Queen of Tahiti.
Her Majesty, the Queen of Tahiti.
Salute the one whose favor you bear this day.
To my love.
Salute you each your most worthy and honorable opponent. On your honor and at the Marshal's command, you may begin.
All right. Are you satisfied with each other's arms and armor?
Ma'am?
Aye.
Are you ready?
Aye.
Are you ready? Then lay on.
Oh, you got me. Right here. You killed me first.
Die well, gentlemen! Die well! Victory to Cree!
And carefully, this ground is hard.
There's a rock here.
Oh, good, you found that rock. I was looking for that one.
More though.
My lords and ladies, in this, a second fight of the second round upon this field, we have Nightshade facing John James. Nightshade! My lords, salute the throne. Guard!
Jeffrey.
Salute the one who inspires you this day. Salute you each, your most worthy and honorable foe.
We are going to have some fun.
Aye.
All right.
On your honor and at the marshal's command, you may commence.
Lord Nightshade, are you ready?
Aye.
Your lordship, are you ready?
Aye.
Leon.
Nightshade, when he likes to go for the witch, but he knows that he's not going to get it, so he never tries to. Yeah. He else goes for the thing.
No, I haven't.
How about I parry my own blade? Is that all right?
That'd be a good thing.
You don't mind, do you? You don't have a problem with that? I'm disarmed, sir. May I switch?
You may.
Thank you.
Would you like me to take your baton?
For the buy.
I'll take it.
That's why you were so quick to. Yeah, let's get him authorized.
Nice finger. Well struck. And thank you. The fight is yours! Ah, you frightened me!
And you will drink beer through a straw.
Victory to John James! Only a fresh one.
James.
You're welcome. My lords and ladies, in this, the third pairing of the second round upon this field, we have Maeve facing Fenton. My lord, my lady, salute the thrones. There are lots of them here. Yeah.
She was sitting there.
Salute the one who inspires you this day.
There are those of us who are not. I have two.
Salute your most worthy and noble opponent. Upon your honor, and at the marshal's command, you may begin.
Are you satisfied with your opponent's arms and armor?
As it were, yes.
No, she's not. But that's how the cards draw. She said.
I see.
For this fight, yes.
All right, when the baton is raised, you may engage. Allez.
I present the choice. I choose not to fight with her.
Lord, you're most gracious.
They're raspberries. They're yummy. They're getting a little warm, so just...
Okay. No. You better not.
Okay.
No, it's not an Orkney trick. No.
All right. Mark now. You took my arm.
Close. Yeah, I was pulling my kind of dragged down a little.
I'm not ready now. Okay.
Yes. Nothing.
You touched my sleeve, my lady, but I don't. You did not.
Yeah, there's no stir. Okay. Yeah, no, that's up my head. Good enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Victory to Fenton! Huzzah!
Hey, come on. Who's next?
My lords and ladies, in this the fourth combat of the second round. Upon this field we have Don Simon facing Anna! Salute the thrones, good gentles.
Your Majesty.
Salute your inspiration for this day.
Where's my inspiration?
I moved. They're hidden behind the bush.
Salute your most worthy and honorable and apparently cuddly opponent.
Yep. She looks cuddly.
On your honor and at the marshal's command, you may begin.
Combatants, are you satisfied with each other's arms and armor?
Aye.
My hay bale taunts you. I guess he's satisfied.
My baton. Please sit. Drives you insane.
No, I'm not that hungover. All right, all right. You can continue your jibes once you start. When I raise the baton, you may engage. Allez. Are you prepared?
Hi.
What would you like to yield?
I would not like to yield.
You would not like to yield.
Not like to yield.
Very good then.
First, that would be my leg.
Terribly sorry, I've wounded you. Would you like me to summon a chirurgeon so that we can fix that?
No.
No?
But may I play by your kingdom's rules and only go down on one knee?
You may indeed.
This would be interesting.
Gentlemen, would you like to turn out of the sun, please?
Sure, I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, but the sun, admittedly, while glinting off your fair face, and in allowing me to see the vision of loveliness which is before me, is very nice.
Get him!
I would still prefer to have you turn out of the sun so it would not blind you.
I would prefer to have you fight. Less yak, more splat.
Less yak, more splat, as you wish.
Good girl.
Well said.
Good girl. Right there, my other leg.
Apologize. Didn't intend to strike your leg. Are you comfortable?
I am.
Really a flesh wound?
With my arm.
Now would you like to yield?
Nope. It's only a flesh wound.
Life is only a flesh wound.
I've never enjoyed dismembering so much.
Play with your food.
No, flat.
That would be
No,
my arm.
that was flat.
You sure?
Yes, I did not. The point did not impact. I apologize.
If you're convinced.
I apologize. Are you comfortable?
I am.
Are you entertained?
Much.
Very good.
Set.
Well struck! Victory to Don Simone!
You asked for entertainment.
Thus ends the second round upon the lower field.
They were
They're close to one, so I went after it. There's no ice in town. Actually, he made an order beforehand. He does shaved ice, and so he's getting like 45 bags.
Yeah, there's a lot more here. Real big, because you have those and you can buy whatever you want. You can buy my helmet in those. You give me 260 of those, you can buy them. And then what you do at the end of the event.
Yeah, you do. Watch your hands. He's outside.
But it's great because you actually use them coins for
There.
Okay. Well, sorry. Good seeing you again.
I bought it.
Some speculation is that Neanderthals, the appetite for a meal is somewhere between 5 and 10.
Eating archery ranges, though.
I mean, that's short compared to modern things, but, you know, for that time period, there was an article in one of the anthropology magazines that we get at school that I was reading about Neanderthals. And, because they, you know, they're, you know, all the anthropologists, you know, oh yeah, totally.
Archery has been with the SCA practically since the beginning, and we shoot at a maximum of 40 yards. We try to recreate the archery contests of the Middle Ages, and actually the archery that we do is probably much more accurate on the whole than the European archery of the 14th, 12th, 13th centuries. Our equipment is so much better. This is the maximum technology that the SCA uses now. This is a full working recurve bow. We allow fiberglass and things like that in our bows because if we didn't, nobody would be shooting. It's a matter of the others are just not available. Now we do have some people that will take Northern California yew wood and actually make bows of their own that resemble the old English longbow and actually make their own arrows and shoot. However, to generally shoot in the SCA, we shoot a standard cedar shaft arrows,
a standard little foil point like that, speed nocks, feather fletches. We are required to have feather fletches. This is another type. It has something that's a little more medieval, a heavy target point. I wish we could buy those again, but they don't make those anymore, and that's the most wonderful of the target points. Standard feather fletch. The nock is medieval. That was made. It used to be made out of bone and ivory. Usually they were made out of wood for cheap military grade arrows. Points used to be bronze and later steel. So basically we try and recreate the archery of the Middle Ages, and we have our competitions that go internationally, and we have various so we say divisions. We have the period divisions where they shoot nothing but handmade, authentic, very authentic arrows. Then we have the open division where we allow the fiberglass recurves. And then we have the crossbow division. And the crossbow division is something that, again, fiberglass, because the steel will crystallize and shatter. And it's like little fragmentation grenades after a while. So we went to the entire fiberglass bow for crossbows for safety reasons. And this is a handmade bow. To work the thing, you simply put your foot down like that, put your foot in the stirrup, and pull it up, hitched, ready to go. To prevent a safety violation here, I'm going to let it back down. Well, we have specialty shoots such as they did in the Middle Ages. Some is just a plain circle, and it's how many times you hit the circle. There's the wand shoot, where we take a piece of lath work about 1.5 inches wide and set that up in front of the target, and the object is to hit the lath. We have the wreath shoot, where they weave a garland of flowers and have that hanging and twirling on a string in front of the target. And the object is to shoot and go through the center of the wreath. And that's another fun one. And then we have stuffed animals. They had a pig made out of wool stuffed fabric, and they had the pig on a little runner pulley, and they'd run the pig across the field, and you'd get to shoot at the running pig. Very fun. Just shooting that canvas pig was just wonderful. That's also something they did in the Middle Ages, and we very much enjoy these specialty archery games. And then they come up with various other crazy shoots that just are hilarious fun. So the object is to have fun while we're learning about archery in the Middle Ages.
There we are.
The scribe reads. And what do you figure your footage?
Send your emissaries to pace off, and you assess the fee you feel is. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, my lady. Duly noted, the taxes have been paid.
We are ransomed.
Oh, it's in my handout. All right.
Make way. Sound the horn. Tax collectors approaching.
Time to go run.
Make way for the tax collectors. Left.
Oh, really? I thought it was just a regular
Actually,
cane. And you bought it?
Yep.
Huh.
This one.
Well, my persona is the horned one, the Celtic god Cronos, or Hearn the Hunter. I go by Silver Wolf. My artistry is making the knife blades that are on the table there, and I use the wolf paw as my insignia for all my blades. I engrave each and every one of my blades with a wolf paw. These are all my blades here. The largest one right now is this one, and as you see, there's the wolf paw right here on it. This is a Highlander dirk style blade, and then I make smaller blades which are known as Siskiyous. Siskiyou is Gaelic for dark blade, which was a blade that was easily accessible and easily hidden in medieval time periods. When the dirk was outlawed in Scotland by the English, they started carrying Siskiyous. And nowadays, the Siskiyou is a blade that is carried in their boot or in their sock for Scottish regalia.
I'm Marcus Stonegrinder. I'm a 16th century German. I have a 16th century German Soleil with bever. Very nice protective helm. I have a leather breastplate that covers aluminum. It's lighter than steel, but steel is what a lot of people wear. Boy, I don't know where to keep going. I did all the leather work and the aluminum work underneath my arm, my legs, my chest plate. A lot of people do their own armor. Some of it we buy.
Is this for heavy fighting?
This is heavy fighting.
And what weapons do you use?
I use a mace. Very nice heavy shot. And a sword also, Sam. And a sword.
Is this your squire?
This is my son. He's my page. I'm not a knight, so I don't have any squires yet. But I've been fighting for 4 months now, and it's the best fun you can have. If your armor is made right, you usually don't get hurt. But sometimes accidents do happen. Yeah. That's another advantage to having the armor covered with leather. It doesn't heat up so bad. And then we take breaks, get in the shade, drink lots of water. And they take pretty good care of us out there on the field. They don't want to see anybody falling down from heat exhaustion. And we go out there and beat each other with sticks.
Lay on.
And this should be a very fun war, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you make that?
No, it was bought a few pavilions down. They're selling all different sorts of animal puppets.
I'm Princess Alina from the Mist. The Mist is a principality that encompasses most of the middle of California, and this is my husband, Stephen.
Stephen of Beckenham, also from the Mist, Prince of there right now.
The titles of royalty, Prince, King, Princess, Queen, are titles that rotate among some of the those who earn the titles by right of combat. And tradition has it that when they fight a list based on prowess and tourney experience, the victor becomes the king or the prince, and their consort becomes the princess or queen. Unless, of course, a lady wins, and then she's queen in her own right.
And currently we're wearing costumes from the
Burgundian Age.
Burgundian Age. Yes, they're warm for out here, but they look good.
It's fashion.
That's the whole point.
It's all about the fashion.
this is bobbin lace. And this is what I do. And you can see where the lace is coming out the back there. That's actually what I'm making. And then it's not as bad as it looks because I only use 4 bobbins at a time. So it looks real confusing to see all these lots and lots of bobbins. Yeah, and I have a pattern that I'm following. So I kind of see where I'm at on the pattern and go from there. And basically bobbin lace is crossing and twisting the threads. I'm not making knots. As I go along, if I find that I made a mistake farther back, I can actually undo what I've done and fix where the mistake is. Hopefully I don't make mistakes. I try not to, but it happens. It's crossing and twisting the threads. And like I said, I work with 4 at a time. Bobbin lace is one of the first forms of lace. As time went on, they had, you know, machine-made laces and that type of thing that they could make a lot quicker. But bobbin lace was one of the places it started. What is this? AS 37? So about 8 years.
And how do you learn a skill like this? It's almost an extinct skill.
Well, I had bought a kit at a place in Berkeley called Lacis, and because I had seen other people making bobbin lace, and I was there and saw the kit and I bought it, and I tried to learn from what the kit told me, and I couldn't do that. I needed a real person. I needed an instructor. At the time I lived in Anchorage, Alaska, and through the community schools there was a lady teaching bobbin lace. So I went through the community schools, and every Thursday night we would go, and she'd have people at all different stages and teach everyone how to do lace.
And once you've made the bobbin lace, how do you use it?
There are different ways. This, I plan to make a small hat, and it's going to be trim on the hat. Some types of lace, when they're heavier, they can be used as edgings on collars, on cuffs. Just, I make a lot of bookmarkers too, and that way I can give them to people, just a small bookmarker, and say, here.
Neat.
It's fun. I don't knit, I don't crochet, but I can sit, I can do this. It's just what people have the patience for.
Can you do anything else when you're doing it?
I can watch TV. Well, actually I listen more than watch. But yeah, I can talk with people, I can you know, listen to the television, you know. It's kind of like reading a book and watching TV at the same time too. You get a little bit of both. And
Time. How long does it take to make a piece big enough to go around your head for a hat?
Well, this one in particular, it's a pretty wide piece, and there's a lot of bobbins that I'm using. A piece of lace probably about half this wide, you could kind of go with 1 inch an hour. That's kind of a standard. A good lace maker can do about 1 inch an hour. This takes a little bit longer than that, probably half an inch. But as I go through it, I'll work on one side and get far enough that I can't go any farther and move over and do the next section. It's kind of a sectional thing. yeah, so I mean...
Different. It's called spangles because the bobbins themselves
Won't have enough
are,
weight.
yeah, they're pretty light and they'll roll around the pillow. So by putting spangles on them, by putting the beads on them, it gives them weight so that they stay put
Helps keep the
and they
tension
stay
on your
flat.
line.
And I do a lot of tension actually. I'm using silk thread right now and I can pull and put a lot of tension on it. They would do the lace with linen threads, and you can't tension linen as much because it will break. In the hot weather like this with linen thread too, you would have to probably mist it because it gets brittle when it's dried. They did do colors. The books that I have 2 period books from 1549, I believe. It's a facsimile of it, of course. I don't have the real. But the one that I have is a Dover book, and it's a facsimile of that original. And some of the patterns in there do specifically say that, okay, you can make this one, you know, this one was made with colored thread, or this one was made with perhaps gold or silver. They give some suggestions in there.
Amazing.
It's fun.
You had to fly and she was trying to learn how to fly it.
Put your hat on.
You might have to stand up occasionally to be able to see, and then you can move back.
I'm in the debate if I want to go out right now or if I want to cool off and wait for the next scenario. Because I'm already just walking up here. I'm
And grab one of the water balloons. Gatorade over there.
I think I'm going to take a break for a minute and just kind of relax in the shade and cool off and then strap my helm on and go in a bit because I don't know. Dog wearing his drink.
Oh, wait a minute, Bunky.
Yes.
He's wearing his Darwin
No, he's wearing
cap, but I don't think it's like that. I spotted him. Point him out. This piece is just about this wide.
On the hay bale.
Oh, there's...
Get a little close. This is the wrong place to be. We're about.
What?
Back up. Got your back into the trees.
Okay. This is a general charge, and this is actually about a standard speed for most medieval battles. These spears you see flying through the air, those are our version of javelins. They're made out of heavy-duty Schedule 40 PC pipes. The long weapons you see are makeups of pikes, and you see the axes rising and falling there in the center. The flights of javelins. The high one is a siege engine way back to the rear. Okay, this is toward the end of the battle. It looks like the forces of West Kingdom are driving the Ontarians downhill. The ones in what looks like World War I helmets toward the back, these are javeliniers, the ones with red arrows or red arrow points on their helms. These are the people throwing javelins.
Which side's winning?
I might add that all of this armor that you see out here, this has been field inspected, so it's carefully put together so nobody gets hurt. Now, you just heard somebody holler, hold. That is a magic word that the SCA has that means there's a safety problem on the field, something happened that is not quite correct, we have to look at it. Somebody's in danger of being hurt. That's what hold means. And we might turn the camera off for a little bit. No, we'll keep it rolling again. Okay, these people walking off the field are people who have been killed. So they're wandering off the field. And I think they're going to reform here for another go at it here. Might as well turn the camera off for a little bit here. Unless you want to get some pictures of these various armors coming in. Okay, this one right here in front, taking off the little pigtail behind, that's called a bassinet type helm. This one over here, kneeling in the red, this gentleman with the Viking Warhawk Viking shield, that's a standard Saxon Viking helm. You see this gentleman down here in the red. Can't see his helm, he's got his hand on it. That fruit juice can right there is probably his best friend right now, because the most dangerous thing we have in the war is these people getting dehydrated. You can imagine out there in the sun, it is hot. And it is just wonderful to have some lady come up and pour a bucket of water over your head. You'd think she's an angel when that happens. It's a beautiful thing. These other guys running around, it just keeps water on these guys. The horn that you heard, the 3 blasts, means it's 3 minutes till the next battle. You see that guy, he's getting what water he can, but he's got a difficult helmet to take off, so he just poured it on his face and gulped what he could down. That's one way to get water in. This guy looks like he's got a string of sausages on his arm. That is our version of an axe. And you throw those at people, and when you get hit with those, it's like, oh, I got hit with an axe, I'm a goner. And this archer coming over here in the black helmet with the red thing on it, he's got what we call golf tube arrows. This is a variation. And the fellow right beside him in the red, the heavy fellow, he is also a safety marshal. And the lady, I think, beside him in the white hat, that is also a safety marshal. Yes, the fellow in the blue and white, that was an archery marshal.
I like tournaments better.
And our major importance here is we want to make sure that there are no injuries on this field. By the way, there are less injuries in SCA combat than in the sport of ping pong, and certainly baseball, certainly football. Soccer has more injuries. Volleyball has more injuries. It's really amazing that for all this rattling and banging and mayhem that you see out there, nobody's getting hurt. Now, we have not had a single injury for years in the SCA. Bruises, yes, we get those now and then. But injuries, serious injuries, maybe every 3 or 4 years you get somebody that loses a piece of armor, gets an unlucky hit, maybe breaks an arm.
Can you describe the formation with all of the shields in the front?
Okay, this is a straight line formation that we have here, and the reason why the shields are different colors in different groups is these are individual fighting units. We have the green tree group, which is the gold shields with the pine tree on them, and I believe that is Griffin's guards over there in the red shields.
The pine trees are Colby-Sachs.
What? Which one?
Colby-Sachs.
Colby-Sachs? Okay, they all have their... And there's Darkwoods is the Golden Axe group. So and then there are the independents that have no particular affiliation. A lot of these people, I do not know their names exactly. Viking berserkers, of course, punching right in. Here comes the main mob right here. They know about those pikes, so they're kind of keeping back and feeling each other out because of the danger of those pikes. Oh, got him in the head. The fellow with the red axe says, "I'm dead." He's walking out. Didn't watch that one pike. Got him right in the faceplate. He's down. Some people fall in place and some people walk out when they get hit. Oh, Caroline. Let's see. The caretaker is here. We're kind of on TV right here. Next question.
Looks like a lull in the battle. What's going on now?
Probably they're feeling each other out and not quite sure what to do at this point because neither side has enough people left alive to really make some kind of a charge at each other. There's a few people getting hit from just being inattentive. Pretty soon you'll see one of the Vikings will get his courage up and there'll be a mad charge and probably breaks through. The pikemen don't have the capability of charging, and the guys in the shields are mostly defensive. There comes the Vikings in through the center. Okay, looks like one of the Vikings down in the middle. Oops, they got him. Most efficient helms are these round top ones. A lot of Viking helmets out there today. Viking cone top, bassinets, Viking round top. Okay, they call the hold for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. What's the hold for? I'm not quite sure. There's a hold on the field. What?
Yeah, I invited them down from.
Here, let me see. My basketball failed and slid, and I took a shot across the net. And somebody stepped on my getting one.
Okay.
I've broken 4 ribs.
Okay, back here in the rear, what you see is a couple of people broke through and killed all the archers back here in the rear. And now these heavy armor people have come through and they're killing off the guys that broke through. But that was the end of the archers. They took out their siege weapon with a suicide charge in the rear. And out front, what do we have? You see that trail of dead guys there where the breakthrough occurred. But they figured it was worth sacrificing about 3 or 4 people to get rid of the siege engine.
How about the tennis balls I see flying?
Tennis balls? We have tennis ball shooting crossbows. Tennis ball is a very safe missile to shoot with. Okay. Hurts a lot though. I'll bet it does. No, tennis balls don't hurt near as much as javelin.
Knuckles they do. Javelins don't hurt at all.
No, paintballs don't hurt that bad.
You get one on your nose. Oh, I have. We get to the spot where you don't have good solid armor. Yeah. By the way, yes, that big. I've got a scar right here.
This is looking like this all the time, but right where the skin for about 2 weeks.
Oh man, it was off the vein in my muscle. Probably me that did it if it was a few years ago.
It was onto your window war. A year and a half ago.
What?
The one onto your window war a year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago? No, that wasn't me.
2 years ago.
What have we got here? We got a breakthrough going.
That was a hit. Laid him.
Okay, now everything is broken out here. Is he okay? Now we have a bunch of series of little melees going on all over the place. Really confused now.
He got leveled. That was the most realistic go down I've seen.
I don't know what's going on now.
Literally, you get thrown off your feet.
I had to get run over me.
I got slammed into a bush. Pushed back into a bush.
I quit heavy fighting because I was so small. You big guys kept on pushing me around.
I started heavy fighting, so I bulked up and become one of those big guys.
Oh, that's one way to do it.
After this battle, could we get an interview on camera?
A couple of female fighters coming off the field right here.
What can I tell you?
Here comes the Javelineer in, taking his helmet off. He's a hot little laddie, that one.
Yeah. My name is Simone Nichols. I'm the Baron of Adianka, which is in the real world Eugene, Oregon, Lane and Lynn County. The barony has fielded troops here at Ontario. We're having a good time. What else do you want to know?
How did you become a baron?
How did I become baron? The king said, would you take control of these lands and administer them for me? And I said, yes, your majesty.
And how long does an appointment like that last?
I serve at the pleasure of the crown. The crown can remove me and take me away. When the populace asks for polling to have us consider new leadership, or I will serve with my wife until we decide we're done and we want to step away, we've accomplished what we want to do, that sort of thing. So it's variable. We've had barons appointed for 6 months, and we've got one set of folks who have been Baron and Baroness of Lionsgate for 20 some odd years.
Oh my goodness.
So it's entirely dependent upon the people in the area and what they want and what best serves their needs. Strategy today, scream and charge and scream while charging.
And what area does your baronry cover?
All of Lane and Lynn County in Oregon.
Okay. So you drove down. How long did it take you to get down here?
About 4.5 hours. This is the bicranial bear. It is the arms of the barony of Adiantum, gold two-headed bear. And these are on blue tabards because the barony of Adiantum is within the Principality of the Summits, which is all of southern Oregon. And as a result, we have the baronial bear on the Summit's blue tabard, so that we can go out and show our solidarity with our barony and Principality.
On the back of the tabard, I see we have a
right there. We have the Grail.
We have the Grail.
Yeah, so the Grail is the symbol of the artisans of the Principality of the Summits. And so these are to remind us about our artisans and the folks who are out there doing other things besides hitting each other in the head with sticks. Because there's far more to this wonderful society than just the combat.
Is all the heavy combat done in wars like this?
No, we also hold tournaments, one-on-one, much in the manner that was done in the medieval times. We hold pas d'armes, wherein fighters show up to present their skill at arms for the favor of the ladies' gallery. We have crown tournaments by which we choose our king every 6 months in Ontier. In the West, they do it every 4 months. And we also hold prize tournaments where somebody sponsors a tournament, puts up a prize, and invites fighters to come and compete for that. In the summer when it's hot, we come out, we fight, we get awards, we do that sort of thing. In the winter when it's cold, we have a large number of indoor events, generally feasts, revels, these sorts of things. We recreate the medieval feasts that were done in Adianto in Eugene. We do a midwinter's feast every year, wherein we serve a full 5-course feast, dancing, bards, stories, entertainment, and the entire event is centered around the feast, and everything else is to contribute to that. And so we have lots of different things that we do. Excellent. Thank you. The fighting is fun, but it's not everything.
Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. Somebody came through the line and great pass. It was a passing shot. Oh no, mine was right around. It was a 12 foot. Really fast. Man, they had to break through that. There's nothing here. You didn't make that battle? What? Didn't make that battle? I had no intention of making that battle. No, didn't make this battle. Not that one either. I had no intention of making this one either. I had no intention of making the next battle. When we change scenarios. I'll go back, I'll fight the first 2 counts of battle and it goes on.
Maybe, like 10 or 20% of the time it's actually a fight, but there's so much arts going on otherwise. Sure. It's excellent.
If you see this many guys on your side, and you see this many guys on your side, your water jug, I'll go back and charge. Don't stand like this. 3 guys, and you've got 30. More watermelon, please? You are. Boy, they're down like handful now. Keep bodies on. There goes. Come draw the line, my people. The day is past. Somebody in there. Put your gear in readiness. The host is closing fast. He has an Uber breastplate.
They think they can prevail, but they know not the strength they're fighting. Before we give our land up, we shall perish to the last man. And it's hold fast at the river, guard the ford right well, my people. Here we draw the line, stand side by side, and turn back the tide.
Did you break a toy?
Thank you. I have some here.
Ben?
Not sure how long the next battle.
Oh, yes.
May I present to you His Excellency, Sir Wilhelm?
Sir Wilhelm van Zwakke Falke, Baron of Darkwood. And I guess it's already been introduced that this is the West Antier War.
We're having one hell of a good time out here fighting. We've got good friends fighting at our side. We've got good friends that we're fighting against. We love to beat the hell out of each other.
Yes, we love to kill each other, not hurt them.
Yes, we play to kill, not to hurt.
Can you explain your device to us?
My device. This is a device of the Baron of Darkwood, and Darkwood geographically is south of San Jose, includes Monterey and Santa Cruz, and we're from the west, Principality of the Mists. And we're out here. All my people are the ones that are out there in the black and white, and you can always know where we're at because the big mouth is out there yelling, "Darkwood!" And that's us.
How young are you?
Good. How young am I? I started fighting when I was 42. I was knighted when I was 53. I'm 57 now. When I turn 60, we're going to have an old man tourney.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
Done good. Done good.
I appreciate that. So I think a lot of people have a misconception that it's just younger people.
Right. That's wonderful.
How you doing out there? I just sit one out, overheating. I poured water on me, and then I'm going back out. I'm going to make my mouth. I haven't seen it. Been doing okay with this.
Where's the rest of your armor?
Hoping there's somebody right next to me or behind me, because most of what I've been doing is you're not done. They range me, so I just try to block lights.
Good luck. If it starts cooling down, I'll armor back up and come out with you guys. No.
This one. Oh, by the way.
I think what they're doing is they're...
That's kind of cool.
I will cudgel you over the head.
Come back here, I'll fight you later.
Shit, they're getting loading it up.
No.
Unless you were chained up.
No, because then in the chainmail you just go into the shade and it cools you off real fast.
I like my skinny was Maria Catalina. I like Mario Rodriguez.
And so we that was the doctor in his
We do. We have a Bedouin style tent. Yeah. No, it's a Bedouin like in the desert. With the draperies and the hangings and stuff. Yeah, we're down by the lake. You'll hear we have Good, sir. Look at retrieve the lady's hat.
I'll take it out.
Oh, fuck this way. I killed the fuzzy death
Might be training in progress too. What you do is you get somebody
You're not on drawing.
Wow, look at all the hearts.
There goes the giant crocodile. Yeah. Say it, blew it. Misfired.
Oh yeah, he's ready to go.
You wanted your head.
There he is. Wahoo! Hey, what side are we on? Guys, come on, pack up, let's go.
Maybe okay, but I want somebody to look at it.
Oh, you're okay.
Pardon me.
My name is Ariel Ebon, and I'm the West Kingdom Royal Archer. And so I conduct the battles and try to manage the safety aspect, which is why I haven't been playing so far today. But I think we're on our way and making our progress towards completing the safety part. So I'm going to go out and play soon. Up on my helmet, which took about a year to make, but eventually I was able to put it together. And this badge is actually the symbol of the West Kingdom Royal Archer. Goes across the tabard, goes across the suit this way. And the white and blue is my livery, which is my device assigned to me, passed by the College of Heralds. So that's the purpose. It's essentially the Royal Archer in my respective livery, which is an oak tree with a bow and a blue band in the middle. So that's essentially what I'm here to do, is run the combat archery and the target archery competitions and come to a completion of who is the victor in today's activities with respect to the combat archery aspect.
And who is so far?
It's about a tie.
Diplomat, too.
This is exactly what we need. To date, we have a tie. And I suspect Jaime will run well into this evening. But fun is our ultimate goal.
These are the West Ontario War Commemoratives, something we've been doing for 11 years. This is how we raise some operating funds for the following year. It's a co-op between the Moneyers Guilds of both Ontario and Kingdom West, and it helps us raise just a few funds. The obverse is 2 shields, the arms of both kingdoms, divided by a sword, with roses over each shield, and it enumerates across the front in lettering the year of Society 37, and it says Bella inter Ontaire Oxe, in other words, the war between West and Ontaire. And the reverse is a generic combined arms of both guilds from both separate kingdoms, incorporating ensigns and signs from both. And the reverse just basically says Moneyers Guild. These are stamped. These are processed in the same way that they were constructed in the Middle Ages. They are cold struck with a hammer, and the dies are engraved and punched to get the letters and the patterns. Dies typically take 30 to 60 hours to engrave a set of them. Yeah.
At least.
And it's been my pleasure to be active in this for some time. I'm kind of the old grandfather of the Moneyers Guild. I've met a lot of very talented people along the way for a number of years, and essentially what we've done is instruct them, get them the basic technique, and coupled with their own particular artistic achievement, they've been able to run with it and do quite a bit of number of things around the country, around the world actually. And there's probably about 70, 75 of us internationally that do this, and we all know each other.
This setup is Behead the Infidels, or Saracens' Heads. It's done at a walk, trot, or canter, depending on your riding level. You weave in a figure 8 pattern down through the heads, knocking them off with a backstroke, careful not to strike the horse, and go in a straight line back. The competition is timed, so there's points for speed and for accuracy. And there's also a ring tilt game where you have a lance and are trying to get everywhere from a 6-inch to a 1-inch ring on the end of a lance, also at the trot and canter. We have some horses here today. We wish we could have had rentals so that more people could participate. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'm the SCA Mists Principality Equestrian Officer, and Her Highness of the Mist made all of this wonderful equipment for us. Thanks.
I gotta turn that way.
Once again, only in pictures.
Stand, Bill. Stand.
Anton, you're in the way.
Okay, are we ready? Marshall? It's okay, Juliet.
This is the SCA doing equestrian activities, and this is the tilting the rings, and on each post are 1-inch, 6-inch, and 4-inch rings, and you ride down either using a Norman style, which is the lance crossing across your body and onto the opposite side of the horse, or you can use a Saracen style where the lance remains on the same side as the horse that your holding hand is. And your idea is each time you pass through one side down once on such as the left, and then come back on the right, or vice versa, and collect as many rings as you can, but one pass on each post.
We're a little fussy about that, aren't we?
Tiny ones. The tinier ones, and the size rings are worth different points. Of course, the smaller rings are worth more.
All right, you get to keep the last half of that. This is Juliet.
Oh, she's beautiful.
There's an ancient saying, there's an ancient Mongol saying that heaven is the wind that blows through a horse's ears.
Continuing with what we were doing here, earlier in the day we were doing the Saracen heads, is one of the names used for it, and it's basically a head-size object, whether it's a wig type form or a basketball or pumpkin, something along the lines, and you ride a figure-8 pattern through them with alternating your sword from left and right to tag or knock over each Saracen head. You go all the way down, and then you come back in a straight line. Both the tilting of the rings that we just watched and the Saracen head that we did earlier was actual medieval warfare training. The lance, of course, was used against other horsemen and or dismounted. And then the Saracen head represents the infantry that you're fighting against that you'd be riding through.
She's just coming over to kiss you. Go ahead and talk to the camera. She's just coming over to kiss you.
Okay. Would you like to talk to the camera now, then? I've been doing this all day, and I would like to go home to my oats and water.
Oh, she's had her oats. She's just fussy.
And there are other several events that hopefully we'll be incorporating in as time goes along, such as actually using a spear from horseback.
You can use spears from horseback. There's picking up things on the ground from horseback. There's chucking spears at targets from horseback, archery from horseback. A quintain, which is where you've got a lance and you pop the quintain and they count the number of times it rotates.
Without being popped yourself as you
Without being
ride
popped
by.
yourself as you ride by, which is always a challenge. They do a variety of skills tests where they would ask you to drag a bag of feed along behind the horse, or walk across a river with the horse because you're on a quest and you're taking something on. They did a quest for the Holy Grail at one point where you were carrying a goblet full of water but don't spill any, and going across a bridge and asking the horse to go with you, and popping Saracen heads as you go by. There's a wide variety of tasks and skills to do from horseback. So there's a great many things you can do with the equestrian activities in the medieval environment. The only thing we will not do is fight from horseback, because that poses too much of a danger for the horses. You've seen some of the fighting out there. That's pretty rigorous, and we won't do it on horseback because, well, horses are a little unpredictable. And in the Middle Ages, they would have spent a lifetime training a horse to be able to do that. And
extremely expensive. Our horses aren't ready for that. They're not designed for it, and it would be considered cruelty to the animals. I don't know why they don't consider it cruelty to people, but it's considered cruelty to the animals, so we wouldn't do it on horseback.
Have you done any research into saddles and what kind of saddles were used in the Middle
Wide
Ages?
varieties of saddles. In fact, the King of England's Richard III's saddle is still in existence, and they use that as some of the medieval saddles. They had much higher pommels and much higher cantles. So when you sat into the horse, you weren't falling out this way and you weren't falling out this way. If you went off, it was off to the side. When they came in with stirrups, it's what allowed the medieval person to become, the medieval knight, to come into existence, because now he's got something to brace against, as well as the front and back, and he can now become an effective fighting machine from horseback. And you bring several horses into a battle. I don't know if you've ever heard a herd of horses running at one time. It is a frightening effect. If you're on the ground facing down 5 or 6 horses, it'll make you break and run. And that's exactly what it did in the Middle Ages. It made the foot soldiers break and run to see even a small unit of 10 or 15 horses come charging at them, break and run every time, because it is a frightening experience for you. So we don't get to do too much of that. There is one place where I've seen them put 8 horses in full caparisons, all the lances, the knights are wearing all the full surcoats to match. It's stunning. And they come charging up the hill, and it is frightening. It is truly frightening. It's a beautiful sight to behold, and you can sit there and go, wow, if I were in the Middle Ages and I was a foot soldier, I'd be running now. I'd be running now. And these are smaller animals than they had.
Oh, yeah.
So,
but their animals had to have armor built for the horse as well.
the horses often carried their own armor, correct. There was a headpiece that's called a champron. You can see it made to cover their head and their ears. Cover their heads and ears. They would have breastplates, the whole body breast sections. You normally didn't cover much of their flank, although they could cover down to about halfway across the flank. But the armor clattered as well on the horses, so they were a little fussy with that as well. So you've got the horse's armor clattering, the knight's armor clattering, plus the sounds of a battle going on. It takes a long time to desensitize a horse to that kind of commotion. And as a result, medieval war horses were extremely expensive. One of the requirements for a squire to become a knight was to be able to afford his war horse and his accoutrements. And it was very difficult to afford the horse. It was about the price of a house today.
She's really
No, I wasn't there when you water. Coming back to the last hole. Yeah, that's far to go.
You're like, show up.
It felt
Good girl. Okay. We can go. Okay, you ready? No. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl.
She wanted to run, and she got to run.
We want you to run all the way up. Very nice. You I want to speak. Good girl. So what the hell? No, you don't understand. This is everybody. 14 years old.
Actually, this is really pretty.
Stay on the shot.
Yeah, because otherwise it starts fluttering around. Real good at weight. Talking about arts and science a little bit for how long. As soon as you mentioned the armor, I thought, I gotta see that. My intent was to have my horse there also.
I didn't have fun last night.
Well, after authorized one of the company ground marching down there.
Thank you, Dad. Very nice. Tight spin, tight spin.
I'm Frederick of Holland, and that's my name in the SCA. My name in the 21st century is Fred Hollander, and I'm from Berkeley, California.
And you were part of the original party that created...
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little about that?
Well, I lived in Los Angeles at the time. I was going to school down there. But through various friends of mine, we received a note that said, you know, there will be a gathering on the 1st of May because it's spring. You know, it's the first day of spring in the old calendars. And so, as it happened, I wanted to go up there and found the place. It was a Berkeley brown shingle house, had a backyard with a little bit patch of lawn, a little gazebo, and I showed up at 12 when everything was supposed to happen and nobody was there, and I went away for half an hour. I came back and it was like, oh, where did all these lords and ladies come from? I'd better put on my, well, I had a tabard. I had a piece of cloth down the front, a piece of cloth down the back with a hole in the middle, belted around. Very, very simple. Wasn't anything really. But everybody else obviously had much finer stuff than I did, and that was my feeling. And people were fighting with swords, which were, as it happened, made out of pine lath, you know, furring strips, and painted a little bit, except for the guys who were using rapiers they had from their college fencing class. And the one pair of people who actually had real weapons and were working with them very carefully. And it was a lot of fun, and we said, wow, let's do it again. And so a couple of months later, various people did it again, and next time I got to do it was the 4th one, which was almost a year later. And by then, it had already started to gel. It just sort of grew out of the ambiance of the time. It just took off. There was never any plan.
How many people were there for the first?
For the first party, I think it's 25 to 30 people.
And today?
Officially, we've got 24,000 paid members. There's at least 50,000 people in the United States who are playing. And not all the people are playing in the United States. We just, as a matter of fact, the West Kingdom just split off a new kingdom. Australia just became the 17th kingdom of the SCA on July 4th weekend. We have groups in South Africa, across all of Europe, all around the Pacific Rim. We're beginning to get some groups in South America, though people there are really poor in terms of free time and stuff. The SCA is very definitely a leisure time activity. I am a research chemist at the University of California at Berkeley Chemistry Department. And I have been doing the same sort of work now ever since I graduated with my PhD, and I've been working at the University of California for 23 years. The SCA brings together people of a couple of things I've noticed in common. The primary of which is an imagination and a willingness to play. The second of which is an interest in some form of the romantic aspects of the Middle Ages. By romantic aspects, I mean the chansons, the tales of Arthur and his noble court, the glamour, the glory of the Middle Ages. A lot of our people get interested in history after the fact. You come in for the glamour and you stay for the history. And this has been the evolution of the SCA throughout its time period is that people come in for the glamour and stay for the reality. And we get all sorts of people. We get truck drivers, we get college professors, we get, staff scientists, we get lots of computer programmers for some reason, but we also get, sanitation engineers, district attorneys, every aspect of the current age is represented by some people in the current Middle Ages. It just does not select against anybody.
Medieval England particularly was cooler, shady, with lots of green trees. How does that convert to a climate like we have here when you're working with heavy armor and metal and chain mail?
Well, you'll notice I'm dressed in my underwear. Literally, if I were a medieval noble in England, I would have a second tunic on over this one, considerably more decorated. When it's hot, and it's not all that hot today, it's nice, you tend to skinny down into your under tunic, and then you belt that up around your knees to get some ventilation. Out on the battlefield, you sweat a lot, because there isn't really any substitute. In the original Middle Ages, there's no substitute for armor because it's keeping you alive. And in the current Middle Ages, there's no substitute for armor because it's keeping you alive. The sticks we swing could kill us if we did not wear armor. And they probably wouldn't kill us as cleanly as the steel swords that our ancestors used. I gladly wear my armor and sweat up a storm. And then I take water with sugar and salt, otherwise known as Gatorade, and drink lots of it because basically we're facing the same problem that the Crusaders faced when they went to the Holy Land. They went from a climate which was much like Oregon and Washington and came down to one that was like Southern California. And so they started dressing down. They wore lighter armor. They died more often of heat. Basically, you develop coping strategies, one of which is to wear lighter garb than our ancestors would, cotton instead of wool. I am currently a Duke. I am also a member of the Order of Chivalry, the Order of the Laurel, and the Order of the Pelican. Those are my primary titles, and I've got a string of others. Part of how I got them was sheer persistence. I've been in this group for 37 years. Actually 36 years, but because we're in year 37 now. But after 36 years, if you continue being active, you're going to pile up credits. The Order of Chivalry is for fighting. Basically, I proved myself equal in courtesy and honor upon the field and also in skill at arms to those who were on the field with me at the time. And I was offered a white belt, and I accepted. I am a Master at Arms, which is a knight who didn't swear fealty. The Order of the Laurel is an award given to those who are active in the various arts. My arts are poetry and song and heraldry, amongst other things. I do all sorts of things. The Order of the Pelican is given for service. People who work their butts off and work hard to make things happen and to keep the group running are awarded the Order of the Pelican. The pelican is a Christian symbol. It is the bird that wounds her own breast to feed her chicks from her life's blood. And I am a Duke because I had the skill and luck to win a crown twice. I won one crown tournament in the East and reigned as King of the East. And then a couple of years later, I won a crown tournament in the West and reigned in the Kingdom of the West, both times with my wife. And she is no longer active. I still am. For having suffered for a year of being on the throne, which is a glorious job and a lot of fun. I recommend it to anyone who wants to try it, but is also a lot of work, and you don't dare lose your temper. You don't dare have an upset stomach day or a bad hair day, because everybody's looking at you all the time. We actually, I mean, our kings are pretend kings. We're playing a game, but the game is better if we play it as hard as we can. And so our kings are real. They sit on the throne, they give out real awards, they give real honors, they declare real wars. And you know, no one has their head chopped off, and no one has to go into exile and, you know, never see their home or loved one again. And at our wars, no one's gotten killed yet in 36 years. And we all get to sit around the fire afterwards and say, hey, you were on the other side when we put that last big charge across the field. How did it look from over on your side? Hey, man, that was awesome. We don't often achieve the high standards of fluency of speech set by Hollywood actors in medieval movies or by William Shakespeare or any of the other better poets. I think we do manage to achieve some of the camaraderie and sense of family that an army unit or a village in the Middle Ages would have had. It's one of the advantages of not being a reenactment society. We don't actually have a standard scenario to compare things to. We are a recreation society. We try to recreate the parts of the Middle Ages that were important to each individual. We don't have a group agenda. I think song and heraldry are important. Other people think spiffy clothes are important. Other people think armor is important and making the armor look absolutely the best they can. Other people think, you know, the domestic arts, brewing and baking, cooking in general are important. And so, as a group, we eat all of them. And we don't have to argue about, you know, well, you're not doing your share of the cooking. Well, I'm not doing my share of the cooking because there's someone else who really enjoys cooking and really wants to put on a medieval feast. So he's doing the cooking. And I do some brewing, a little bit, that's a hobby of mine, but I don't do a lot of research about period methods of brewing because I know there are friends of mine who will come up to me and say, you gotta try this. It's a replication of Kendall Digby's recipe of 1585, and it's really good. And it is. And the cheesemaker comes up and says, I want you to try this. I finally got myself a press and made a dry cheese, and I think this is really good. It is. Or sometimes someone comes, hey, you want to try this? I just made it. What did you put into it? And sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it's merely alcoholic.
What advice would you have for somebody who is interested and wanted to start with the SCA?
Find your local group. Find the people who are nearest to you and start interacting with them on a social basis. Trying to get your gear together and come in on a high level is very difficult, and we've got a society here. We've got a social group here, and you need to learn some of how it works as well as about the Middle Ages. You can come in with a PhD in medieval history and really get off on the wrong foot if you don't understand that some of what we're doing is the group. It is not just the Middle Ages. It is the group of people doing the Middle Ages. And so the advice I have, someone in Wairika, talk to the people in Wairika, talk to the people down in Redding, talk to the people up in Ashland. We've got, and sort of a partial group in Wairika. We've got a few people, nothing official. Both Red Bluff and Ashland or Medford have full-fledged groups. And this would be your best introduction. Go to our website. The SCA Incorporated has an official website. They reference lots of other websites run by individuals that have large amounts of information about what we do, how we do it, and why it's fun to be here.
Hey, let's see.